Hey guys, Bike here, and I'm back again with another Last Epoch build guide video. This one is for the Paladin. This is Permanence of Primal Knowledge Smite, or as I'm calling it, Primal Smite. All gameplay that you are watching was taken at Corruption 1031. Thank you very much. So, with this build, obviously Season 3, we got a bunch of new primordial items into the game, and I've been trying to do different builds with these items. And the gloves, the Permanence of Primal Knowledge gloves, I thought they were interesting, and I feel like a Smite build was calling my name. Now, I've done a build in the past called Machine Gun Smite. It's a fire-based build. These gloves would have worked just fine, I suspect, but I wanted to try them with lightning and then try and get a bunch of cast speed and see how we're doing. And I feel like the results speak for themselves. We're clearing through Corruption 1000 just fine. We're super tanky. We generate a bunch of ward with Twisted Heart of Ukeros. And this build does really well against multiple targets. And that's what I like a lot. I like the fact that we're able to clear through large sections of mobs and not have too many issues. We're relatively tanky. And if we run into like a possessed mob or a rift beast, we don't just get instantly ice. Now that could still happen. I did have that happen a couple times on my way to 1000 corruption, but after getting to 1000 corruption and an upgrade or two, I feel like the build is doing just fine. I'm enjoying the results here. We're nearly crit cap, but not 100%. I could work on that, but I feel like the build is good enough right now that I'm going to ship it to you guys, and you guys could test it for yourselves, see how you feel about it. I like the synergies with everything in the build. Everything kind of has its nice place. We're using Abyssal Echoes to burn down our mana, but also do a bunch of extra damage and get even more attack and cast speed with it. Sigils we're using for critical strike chance, where, you know, well, sigils are pretty self-explanatory. Holy Aura, again, pretty self-explanatory, self-buff. We're using Healing Hands as a traversal skill, as well as a way to proc even more smites. I'll explain that in the video. And then Smite's our main damage dealer. And I like what we got going on here. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into some boss fights. So this is 1031 Corruption, Black Sun timeline. We're going up against Raye. And as you can see, we're just pummeling him with a bunch of smites. You know, he's flying in the air, and I guess maybe he's a big giant lightning rod or something. Okay, that was bad. I'll leave that one behind. But we are smacking him with the smites. We're just absolutely pelting him, and we could take a hit. We could take a hit with this build, and I mean, let's be real. Like, I can't take too many hits, but it's nice to play a build that can do a decent amount of damage and not just crumple on the floor. Same thing for the Harbinger. He doesn't do as much damage as Raye, but he has a lot of health, and we're able to burn through him. It takes a little bit longer. We're able to burn through him. Let's go to regular Aberoth. Regular Aberoth, we just kind of burn through him. We don't even really have to do anything. I could probably tank all his hits, but it's just instinctive reflex to just get out the way. And I'm able to burn him down. This is a good farmer for this guy as well. So if you're looking for a few, you know, items that only Aberoth drop, regular Aberoth drops, you can try this. Now, the big question, how, with all this tankiness and everything, how does this do against Uber Aberoth? It does okay, but I didn't kill Uber Aberoth. I've said this multiple times. I don't really enjoy the fight, but also he does a lot of damage. I can barely take a triple flail hit, and his big charge up carpet bomb attack, like if you're right near the point where he drops the hammer, you'll get one shot. So when it comes to Uber Aberoth, you might have to use a shield. You might have to use some other things. We're using a Scales of Atera offhand for even more cast speed, as well as some ward retention. You would definitely have to change this build and maybe even drop Permanence of Primal Knowledge. Not sure. I'm not sure about that. I could just spend a week trying to get this build tip-top shape and take on Uber Aberoth, but for the most part, the results are mixed. I'm not a big Uber Aberoth guy. I've killed him like once with a Judgment build, and that was good enough for me. So if you're looking for a really quick way to kill Uber Aberoth, this is probably not the build for you. This is really set up for clearing through monoliths. But we have multiple gear options, and we'll go through all that in the video. Before we get into the video, in the description down below, you will find a planner as well as a loot filter. And we'll go through all that. So if that's what you're here for, just check out the description down below. Possibly leave a like, possibly subscribe if you want to see more Last Epoch content from me, Babbling Bike. With all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the video. Hey guys, so here we are in game. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give a demonstration of the build, and then we're going to go over the loot filter, the gear, the idols, the blessings, the skills, the passive tree. There will be timestamps in the description down below for each section. I don't, get into the minutia. I will say this: gear I typically spend a lot of time on because I like to give you guys options on what you can use to kind of, build up the ideas in your head to see, where do I want to take this build? This is what Bike did, but what do I want to do with this? So let's go ahead and showcase what we're doing with the build. So here we are, we're running along. The number one thing you're going to want to do, since we're using devotion, we're going to want to burn down our mana. And I'll explain this if you don't know what I'm doing, what I mean by this. You want to get to around 40, 50, something like that. We regenerate at a good clip. Use healing hands to get into combat, and then start hitting the enemy. Now, one thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to stay really close to him. This allows us to proc lots of smites. And then you're going to want to hit him with Abyssal Echoes because you want this buff right here, Nether Coating. You want that going all the time. And you just want to just bring the pain. Bring the pain, move around. And now most enemies would probably be dead by now. So we're assuming this is some sort of a boss. And yeah, that's the build. It's just tons of lightning. Tons of lightning. Tons. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the loot filter. So if you're leveling with this build, I would probably recommend a different leveling guide. Link in the description down below to Bleed Hammers. Let me go ahead and move my face real quick. That way you can check that out. If you're looking for a Sentinel / Paladin leveling guide, I recommend that. And then around level 65, 70, 75, transition over to Smite, and there you go. So if you wanted to level with this, you would probably want to uncheck all your options here, uncheck everything, and then as you're going, enable them. We got a couple good things right here. So we're hiding normal, magic, rare, and exalted items. I am a Circle of Fortune player, so there is so many exalted items on the ground. I have to hide them. That's why I have these different filters set up for, any affixes I might want to see. I've already got plenty of T6 affixes, so I got that hidden. We got our T7 affixes. We also got our double T7 and our double T6s. I would recommend leaving these ones on all the time. We're hiding items from other classes right here. Idols and items that we don't need, but I have all unique items from that might be like a unstable core, right? An unstable core might drop. You might be like, oh, unstable core. I would like to make a sorcerer and use unstable core. Well, here you go. You will still see it on the ground. Now, if you don't want to see any unique items whatsoever, turn this off. Have these enabled, turn that off. Same with the idols. We're hiding all idols that we don't need at the moment. Hide them, all sorts of stuff like that. We're showing champion affixes, experimental affixes. You might not need these. You can turn these off if you want. Class affixes, so you can shatter them. Hybrid health, so you can shatter them. Now, I left this rule in place, and I have to put it all the way down here so it's not on top of everything. But what I was doing when I was farming, I'm going to use this wand here as an example, but sometimes I would find, I was looking for a sword with spell damage, and I would look for one-handed swords because I want to slam spell damage onto Polaris here. And I'm looking for spell damage. So I would find a one-handed sword with a T7 prefix, and then I would use Rune of Redemption to try and, take a chance to try and get spell damage. Or if I had plenty of Havocs, try and craft a spell damage and then move the tiers and all that fun stuff. So I left that rule in place, but it is currently deselected. If that's something you're interested in, turn it on and you'll see every one-handed sword with a T7 prefix. Well, it's not every prefix, but it's prefixes that drop. I'm going to stop now. All right, going up here, we got multiple different idols in different varieties. If it is blue, this light blue color, it will probably apply to your build. Like, for example, here's one-handed swords with 7 tiers of spell damage. We also got catalysts. This is just any sort of catalyst with cast speed, but then here's a crystal skull with cast speed. And I'll explain in the gear section why crystal skull might be a good pickup for your build. We got gloves. We got eternal gauntlets, champion regalia, Leonine Great Helm. Now, these are T6s because these are percent health. If you don't like these, you can turn that off or adjust these to where these are T7. We got different idols here that you might be looking for. And then we got the different uniques you might be interested in, as well as the scales of Eterra. All right, this is the loot filter. And again, available in the description down below. Knock yourself out, guys. I'm going to go ahead and move my face. Okay, so we have done the loot filter. We're going to go ahead and jump into the gear. I always try to be quick about this, but I always take the most time on this. And I have plenty of options for you guys to take a look at. So get ready for this one to be potentially a long section. All right, so Leonine's Great Helm. I would just recommend a Leonine's for this build. I wouldn't try and get any sort of unique. I mean, I suppose you could get a Decayed Skull, but I just recommend a Leonine's. You get a ton of armor. I recommend you get mana, strength, attunement, health, any of that variety. And then for reduced bonus damage taken on critical strikes, try and get that as high as possible. When it comes to the armor piece, you could use a null portent, but I feel like all of the affixes on your chest piece are very important for this build. You're looking for mana, or mana strength, right? Or mana attunement, any of that variety. Ignore the physical pin with bleed. It's there. You want flat mana, and then either percent mana or strength or attunement. And then you want health and health. This is nearly perfect. I'm not going to mess with it. There we go. You're looking for something like that. Like I said, you can use a null portent if you want. I don't even have it as an option. I do recommend Champion's Regalia, just because of all the different affixes you're going to want. So here, I'll go over here and show you guys real quick. Even if you have a 2LP null portent, I think you might be better off with... I think you're going to be better off with a Champion Regalia, because if you can get double mana, double health, and especially if you can get like a double T7 of any of those affixes, it's going to be amazing. Whereas null portent, getting a 2LP is hard enough. Yes, you can get 20% increased health, but health really helps this build out a lot. You're not going to... I guess you could use the melee damage leashes health. I'll explain that in the skill section. Well, or probably this section as well, but we'll go over that later. You can the leech rate's fine, the physical resistance is fine, and yes, the damage reduction is fine, but if you can get something like this with all of these affixes, sans the physical pin with bleed, and you get yourself a strength, attunement, mana, that sort of thing, I feel like this is going to be best in slot. So yeah, try and get yourself a Champion Regalia with rolls like this. Let's move on to Palaris. So why do I use Palaris? I really like Palaris. Palaris has a lot of built-in scaling. We can stack strength, which is really good for red rings. We'll talk about red rings in a moment. And then on top of that, we get flat spell damage. And then being a sword, you can put flat spell damage on here. And then 4LP is not impossible to get. I think I've already found like 1 or 2 this season. 3LP is super accessible. Super. I got like 4 or 5 3LPs chilling in the stash right now, and I slammed like 3 of them. 3LP is very doable. One good thing about Polaris is it gives you +2 to all attributes, which is very nice for Red Ring. And it allows us to hit different targets with Smite, 2 additional targets when we directly cast it. We're directly casting Smite right now. And then on top of it, we get a chance to cast Smite on melee hit. Notice it says melee hit and not direct melee hit. That means you can use an indirect melee hit. And this is going to be the part where I skip to the skill sections real quick. We have converted Healing Hands into a melee ability, but we cast Healing Hands every time we cast Smite. When we direct cast Healing Hands, it becomes a traversal skill, but when it's indirectly cast, you can cast it as many times as you want, right? So we have a 100% chance to cast Healing Hands when we cast Smite, and Smite is now a melee attack. So this is what we've dubbed the machine gun tech for the machine gun Smite build I've done in the past. Move up here, and you could just proc extra smites off of this. You can proc up to 3 extra smites a second, and it really scales really well. It scales very well with attack speed. All right? It scales very well with attack speed. I like it a lot. Now, if you don't want to use Polaris, you could use a wand. Wands are just fine. I would prioritize cast speed, and I would highly recommend a crystal wand or a dragon horn wand. You could also use like a ladle, a Mad Alchemist ladle. I think I got one of these in here right now. It's pretty easy to get those with 2 LP, maybe even 3 LP. Let's look. Okay, cool. I got a 3 LP Mad Alchemist ladle. You could use this. These are affix hungry, in my opinion, because the base stats aren't as good. You get spell damage and mana on these, which we want. We want that, but that's not a lot of flat spell damage or a lot of mana. But yeah, you could put some pretty good affixes on here and potentially use this. This could work decently well with a lightning smite build, but I just like the clear potential that we get out of Polaris. You could also use a Ron Warp. I don't have any Ron Warps. It got nerfed recently. I think in terms of unique wands right now, I think Mad Alchemist Ladle is probably one of the best, if not the best. You get these from the Exiled Mages. 3 LP is possible, chat. 3 LP is possible. You could also, now this would no longer be Primal Knowledge Smite. All right, this would no longer be Primal Knowledge Smite at this point. But you could use Spirit Xylem. I think that's how you pronounce it. 2 LP is possible, chat. I missed the slam with this. It was such a heartbreaker. It was T7 critical strike multiplier, T7 cast speed. So you already know Bike's not going to get it because Bike can't have good things. All right, Bike needs to get 4 LPs to make things work. I mean, every once in a while, I pull something off. And yes, I'm talking about myself in the third person. I used this, and I thought it was okay. I personally like the machine gun tech when it comes to running through monos using the Polaris, but Spirit Xylem, I do think has potential. You can get up to +4 to your smite. Right, that's more than what we get with the permanence of primal knowledge. We'll explain this item a little bit later. So I do think Spirit Xylem has a place and could potentially be very good. I personally like this setup. Moving on. To circle back around to the body armor. Again, this wouldn't be Primal Smite anymore. This would be Astral Smite. Astral Blood Smite. I tried this out just to show you guys real quick. We'll have to put some points back on, but yeah, you can get a lot of ward out of this, right? You can get a lot of ward. You'll lose some skill levels in Smite. Oh, okay, so you can get more ward out of this, but right now I have health leech on. You would probably also want to put a point into Divine Barrier and Synthesis of Light, but you can get a lot of ward out of this build with Architects of Astral Blood. But this build is a Primal Knowledge build, so go ahead and get that set back up just the way I want it. All right, cool. Cool. Very good. So yeah, those are some options right there. Okay, talking about the belt, Orion's Descent, I think it's going to be your best in slot for this build. Chance to cast Smite on hit. This you have a chance to cast Smite when you hit something. You can trigger Smite up to 6 times per 10 seconds, and you can reset that cooldown when you drink a potion. So you can move up to an enemy, burn down all your mana. Check this out. Start attacking them, bam, you get a bunch of extra smites right off the bat, drink a potion, bam, get a bunch of smites right off the bat, bam, bam, drink another potion, get a bunch of, yeah. You guys get my point. You can get a lot of, you can kind of shotgun with this. So you can call this the holy shotgun build if you want. Don't. Shout out to Diablo 3. Yeah, Orion's Descent, 2 LP is very possible. I've gotten a couple with 2 LP. I was able to hit the slam. I'm very happy with this. One thing that I'd like to point out for roles that you would like to get on this belt, even though we don't scale with intelligence, ward retention, right? We get 4% ward retention per intelligence. So 18 intelligence, you guys do the math. You guys do the math. That's a lot of ward retention, and we're generating a lot of ward. So yeah, we can go with that. Red rings. So I feel like red rings are more accessible. I feel more comfortable doing builds with red rings, but not everybody has a lot of time to farm these, and you just might not get one, right? You might not just get one. So I can understand if you would like a build that does not have red rings. I would like to point out you can use an Osirion, an Orion Sunseal, or just any ring that you would like. And Osirion, these are a bit more common. You can get these with 1 LP. I only had 2 in stash. Sorry, I haven't been picking these up. Also, it looks super cool. I'm not going to lie. You get a lot of good synergies with this. You get a chance to chill for free. Very nice. You take less damage from enemies that are chilled. So if you hit them, they got chill on there, you take less damage. So like Red Ring Jr. And you get shock on hit, which we don't need because we already got it, but you can gain 10% more damage per stack of shock. And I believe you wear 2 of these, you get potentially 20% more damage. So Osirion might be a really good fit for this build. And like I said, they're more common to get. One thing you might be lacking is resistances. One thing we get from Red Ring is all res. That's a lot of all res. Right, that's like 30% all res. But if you take a look at my resistances right now, about the only thing I would be missing is the physical resistance. So if you can find a way to make it up, you know, maybe tack on some physical resistance here, or I know we're kind of jumping ahead. You could just take the physical resistance blessing. Could get by. You could get by with that. So yeah, you could try out using Osirion. So if you didn't know about Red Ring, they're kind of rare. They scale really well with attributes. And since we want to be a strength stacking build, they work out a lot with stacking strength because of Polaris. And Red Rings don't care as long as it's an attribute. If you have at least 180 total attributes, you take 10% less damage. I believe these are multiplicative, so having 2 of them on does get you more damage reduction, but it kind of lowers a little bit. It's not a true 20% less damage taken. So yeah, that's what we get having double Red Ring. But like I said, you can definitely use Osirion. Orion Sunseal is a good, like, whoops. I took a fat hit there. If you don't know what I'm talking about. If you take a hit that leaves you below your endurance threshold, right? Take a hit that leaves you below your endurance threshold, you'll consume all of your sigils, right? You'll take consume all of your sigils and take, get a brief damage reduction. So sorry there, chat. I kind of blanked. So yeah, this could be a good backup. And like I said, you could just use regular rings. Regular rings are just fine. As for bases, that's up to you. All right, we've talked enough about rings. Oh, to circle back on the belts, you could try something like Fanes of the Berserker. This is a primordial, so you could not use Permanence of Primal Knowledge. But since we're since we're strength stacking. There we go. This would work really well with strength stacking. You gain increased effective frenzy per point of strength, and you can get frenzy on demand just by pressing a button, so you could attack really fast. I actually haven't tried it, so let me put this on real quick, and let's see how well it does. Here, I can put on these. Okay. Oh, I have no potions. Oh, this is embarrassing. Please hold. Welcome back. Sorry for the break there. Okay. And drink a potion and go. The frenzy lasts for a while. I mean, honestly, I think it's okay. That was the first time of me testing it, so maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, I am getting so freaking sidebarred here. Let me get back on track. Sorry, sorry, everybody. Okay, cool. So we talked about this. Let's talk about permanence of primal knowledge. So what you're gonna want on here. I heard that you can get 2 LP just fine. I've only gotten 1 LP. What you're looking for on here is you're looking for mana and you're looking for attack and cast speed. And then you're going to want to try and slam cast speed on here. If you have 2 LP, excuse me, so sorry. If you have 2 LP, try and get some mana on there. Get some mana, maybe get some health if you're really hurting. We scale really well with mana with this build. And one thing that we get from here is any legendary affix that you have slammed, right? If it's slammed onto a unique, thus legendary, in this case, +4 to smite, you gain 50% more or 50% increase. So this +4 becomes a +6. Overall, I think the gloves are okay. Maybe if you have a build where you're using a bunch of these, it could do all right, but I wanted to do a build with permanence of primal knowledge, and honestly, I feel like Smite's probably one of the better use cases for this pair of gloves. It's drop only from the Rift Beast, so it can be annoying to farm a little bit. Overall, I think it's okay. Works really well with this build. I don't know how many builds are going to benefit from using permanence of primal knowledge. If you don't want to use that, you can use what I was using earlier. Eternal Gauntlets, these work very well. You could also use Grasp of the Blood Mage, or if you've killed Uber Aberoth a couple times, maybe you have yourself a nice pair of Immortal Vice. You can go with that. All right, talking about boots, I got really lucky with this 3 LP. Unfortunately, did not get as lucky with the slam. The +8 to strength is nice, but I had double health. Didn't get it. I had health, hybrid health. Sorry about that, but oh well, we move on. You're going to want movement speed on here. 2 LP is very doable. What you're really looking for is the +12 to all attributes. On top of that, when you stand still, right, when you stand still with this, you gain a stack of Mountain's Endurance. So what that does is it reduces the cost of your spells by 2. Stacks up to 3 times, so you can reduce the cost of your spells by 6 just by standing still. On top of it, it converts your dodge rating. Right here, it converts your dodge rating into endurance threshold. So let me go over here to defense. Can you see endurance threshold? Yeah. I'm going to stop moving. Boom. We go up to 1400 endurance threshold. So this build is definitely a good candidate for planted. You know, the tree build, as it will. Foot of the Mountain, definitely a good pickup here. If you don't want to use Foot of the Mountain, you could use any pair of boots that you want. There. Moving on. Twistard of Karos. I think this is best in slot. +1 to elemental skills, and you can find this 1 LP. Slam it with your +4 to smite. You're looking for 20% increased health implicit. That's pretty good. What you're going to value the most is 8% of current health converted to ward when you directly cast an elemental spell. You're going to want that one the most. After that, everything else can fall in line. Obviously, if you can get 16 strength, 16% cast speed, and 20% health to go with all of that, that's awesome. value the current health converted award. If you don't want to use Twisted Heart, you can use an Ucini's. This is pretty nice. This works really well if you have both attunement and intelligence the same. If you look right here, I'm pretty close, but I think the ward that we get from Twisted Heart is just way too valuable. But this would be a lot of damage. A lot of damage indeed. Next would be Storm Carved Testament. I think this one's fine. You can get a lot of mana out of it. You can also get some Lightning Pen. Honestly, I feel like it pales in comparison to Twisted Heart. We already talked about Orions. We've talked about all this. We've talked about this. We talked about this. We got these two left. Let's go. So Scales of Eterra. This is really annoying to farm. That's the loot filter that I showed you guys earlier. This is set up correctly for the Scales of Eterra that you want. What you want on Scales of Eterra is cold and fire. You want it to say casting a cold spell, casting a fire spell. If it says casting a lightning spell, forget it. Toss it. Or maybe you can save them for crafting later. But you want casting a cold spell, casting a fire spell. Essentially, just to explain it to you very quick, if you have this and you cast, and it says casting a lightning spell, and you cast a lightning spell, you'll gain a damage increase, and then for the next 20 seconds, your damage will be in the toilet. Like, I'm talking in the toilet, being flushed down, gone. This will kill your build. So look for casting a cold spell, casting a fire spell. If it says that, you've just started. You've just started. It's now in the doorway. After that, you're going to want one that has +6 spell critical strike chance. It's under the implicit. After that, you're going to want one with high cast speed. You're going to want to try and get close to 20% cast speed. And then after that, it's whatever. After that, it's whatever. I would say, obviously, get the lightning one. Get one that doesn't say lightning. And then after that, spell critical strike chance. And then just take whatever you can get after that. Try and get 6% spell critical strike chance and casting a cold and fire. If it says lightning, trash it. Throw it in the dump. Get rid of it. There we go. If you're having trouble finding that, I got your back. You can also use a Crystal Skull. Right? And you can get intelligence. You can get spell critical strike chance, ward retention. I would recommend doing cast speed, mana, ward per second, and then whatever else you want there. Maybe some sort of resistance. You can use this. This is just fine. I've used Crystal Skull multiple times when I can't get a Scales of Eterra. You might even be asking, yo, Bike, well, hold on. I'm looking at the stats here. This looks amazing. Why Scales of Eterra? Honestly, it's the extra +8 attunement, the +8 intelligence. That's very nice. And then, you know, well, we're going to forget about the implicits in this case. And then on top of it, it's the cast speed. If you can get a 20% cast speed with +6 spell critical strike chance, and your spell is not on here, you're cooking, man. You're cooking. So, yeah, Scales of Eterra, very nice for that, but otherwise you can just use a Crystal Skull, or you can use a shield. Just make your life simple. You can use a shield. Since we're strength stacking, Bastion of Honor, get yourself one of these. I know these are kind of rare, so Countess of Madrasa is just fine as well. You can try and get yourself one of these as well. And then amulets. Devotion, I would say, is pretty close to mandatory. Well, I'll explain. So Devotion, what you're going to get is with the mana that you are missing, you're going to get flat cast speed for Smite. You can get up to 50% increase cast speed. You're never going to have that. Think about getting yourself around 40% cast speed with your missing mana. There you go. Because that's a percentage. It doesn't matter what your mana is. You will get that cast speed. Now, the flat spell damage with Smite per 5 missing mana, that's a lot more enticing. So this is why we want to try and stack mana as much as possible. I'm at about 800. I think that is perfectly fine for this build. Top of that, we gain endurance, healing effectiveness, lightning damage, lightning pin. This works really well, but honestly, don't let that lightning fool you. This is a great amulet for any smite build. It could be void smite, it could be fire smite, could be lightning smite. Go ahead and use it. All right, guys, I spent the biggest chunk of the video talking about gear and the different things you can use. Hopefully this helps. Let's try and get through the rest of the video. Let's talk about idols. All right, you're going to be wanting these increased damage with Vengeance and Smite idols, right? These are going to be the ones that you want. You want health as your next one. Or if you're using a shield, you want block effectiveness. So you want increased damage with Vengeance, increased damage with Smite, and health. Or if you're using a shield, you want block effectiveness. After that, you want to try and slam on here, increase critical strike chance. Right? That's what you're going to want. After that, you're going to want one of these Stout Weaver idols with Frailty. As for your prefix, Lightning Pin is just fine. You're going to want the chance to apply Frailty. One of these is just fine. After that, you're going to want increased critical strike chance and critical strike multiplier for all of them. Whatever your suffix is, it's whatever. That's what you want. That's what you're going to want to get. Okay, let's talk about blessings real quick. Okay, I recommend the experience blessing, the ring blessing for your red rings, the sword blessing for your Polaris. Take whatever you want. I highly recommend mana. I actually got kind of a mid roll here. Try and get max mana here. You could go for critical strike multiplier, but I recommend spell damage leeches health. Very nice. All res, Reign of Dragons, Spirit of Fire. I recommend armor. If you're using a shield, I recommend block chance. And then up here, I took glove shard rate, but you could take affix rate for last ruin. And that is that. Let's go ahead and talk about the skills. So what you're going to want to do for the smite build, if you are lacking critical strike chance and you're not quite hitting 100%, and you really want it that bad, try and invest as many points into conviction as possible. I would take them out of conflagration. Personally, I'm fine with my current setup of smite. 27 points. I think 3 points is just fine. I value conflagration more than I value deep impact. 5 points in sacrifice. I have enough health leech that 2 points, that only 3 points in atonement's fine. If you have enough health leech, or you just don't care, or maybe you're running the astral, right? Maybe you're running that astral, then you can just put 1 point here, because you need 1 point to get over here. If you don't need critical strike chance, you don't even have to put anything, because it doesn't matter if you're costing your own health to cast sacrifice if you're already losing health. So yeah, you can go with that. You're gonna want to come up here. You want to convert Order of Lagan into lightning. And then I do think unbalanced scale is very important. Being able to hit 3 additional targets with smite is awesome. I highly recommend it. You could just say, hey, look, I'm already hitting additional targets with Polaris. I think that's good enough for me. Sure, you can do that, but this is very nice. Now, let me tell you, this will not all hit the same target, right? Casting smite, these hit additional targets. If there's no additional targets, it's not like, focus fire. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. So that's why I don't recommend any points into Wandering Bolts. I tried it out. It's fine, but I think 1 point into unbalanced scale is just fine. Let's talk about Healing Hands. Most important thing you're going to want to do, 4 points in the Hand of Aurelis and convert it into a traversal skill. After that, try and reduce some of the mana cost to where it's not that bad, and then come over here and convert it into a melee ability for that machine gun tech. You're going to want to take points up here. These are damage reduction against void enemies and necrotic enemies. If they get hit by Healing Hands, you you take less damage from them if they've been affected by this. And then after that, put some points into Prayer of the Fallen and Urgent Healing. Symbols of Hope. You want to come up here, 4 points, 5 points. You want all that critical strike chance, 2 points, 2 points, 1 point. And then come down here and grab Polygram, 20 points, gets you 5 sigils, gets you a lot of buffs. Come over here to Holy. If you, for whatever reason, have any extra points, maybe you're using the Orion Sunseal Ring, you can put a point into Meditation and Iron Symbols. Holy Aura, I just put extra points into Shelter from the Storm anyway. It goes hand in hand with Defiance. For every 2% of uncapped elemental resistance, we gain more endurance threshold. I think that works out just fine, putting the points here as well as the endurance. If you don't want to do that, you can take those points out and invest them elsewhere. 2 points, 1 point. This is really nice to get some extra poison resistance as well as a chance to cleanse ailments without needing a potion. 2 points into Raye's Devotion, 2 points into Raye's Fury, 3 points into Fanaticism for that attack and cast speed, and then 5 points into Firestorm. Abyssal Echoes, number one thing you're going to want to do is come over here and turn off the cooldown. No cooldown. We want no cooldown for Abyssal Echoes. That way we can burn down our mana and get all those buffs from Devotion. After that, 1 point, 1 point. This is just a backup, right? It's just a backup to get blind on some enemies in the radius, because what's going to happen is when we cast Abyssal Echoes, we're trying to burn down our mana, but also we're trying to proc Embrace the Darkness. When we cast when we direct cast Abyssal Echoes, we're granted Nether Coating for 5 seconds. What that does is it gives us increased attack speed with our melee and thrown attacks. Oh, well, we can't use that, right? But we gain a damage increase versus blinded enemies, 20%. This is just a backup in case we don't proc blind with Smite. Now the likelihood of us not proccing blind with Smite is very low, but like I said, this is just a backup. If you think this is redundant, you can take those points out. After that, 5 points, 3 points. If you want, take the 2 points out, put it in over there. All right, final stretch, guys. Let's talk about the Sentinel passive tree. Recommend 5 points into Juggernaut, 5 points into Armorclad, 5 points into Valiant Charge, 5 points into Fearless, 2 points into Time and Faith, and then 5 points into Blade Master. When we're wielding a sword, we gain 30% attack and cast speed with it. Come over here to the Void Knight tree. Put 10 points into Abyssal Endurance. What this is going to do is give us health, void resistance, physical resistance, as well as 5% less damage taken from void and physical damage. And we need 10 points here so we can get Abyssal Echoes. I'm trying to see if there's something else that might be useful here. Maybe put some points into Void Corruption if you're really hard up for some critical strike chance, but I think 10 points is just fine. Coming back over here to Paladin, I recommend 5 points into Defiance, 7 points into Conviction, 5 points into Valor, 5 points into Blinding Light, 5 points into Holy Icon, 5 points into Piety, 10 points into Holy Precision. And before I get too far ahead, let me try and explain some of these. This is for penetration. Pause. This is for Lightning Pen. This is very nice. 14% Lightning Pen to get out of here. I like that. 5 points into Valor. This is for endurance, healing, effectiveness, health. I like this one a lot. 5 points into Blinding Light. Gives us longer blind duration and electrified duration. If you feel like you don't, as well as a blind chance and electrified chance, if you feel like you don't need these points right now, you can invest them elsewhere. You can invest them elsewhere here in the tree, but I think Blinding Light is just fine. 5 points into Holy Icon for the healing effectiveness, necrotic resistance, and health. Also, we get some health regen. 5 points into Piety. This gives us Lightning Pen as well as lightning resistance, as well as more damage to electrified enemies. Now, one thing you could do is put some points into Phoenix Strike, and you might be wondering, Bike, that's for Ignite Chance. Well, if you look back over here, we convert our Ignite Chance to Electrify Chance. I think it's not going to be worth it. That's why I recommend these points right here, but I wanted to point it out. That's an option. 10 points into Holy Precision. This gives us crit chance, critical strike multiplier, as well as 3% critical strike chance. The base, very nice. 5 points into Judgment of the Storm. Now, you might be wondering, well, why are we doing that? Because more lightning damage over time per 2% crit multi. Do we really need that? I think it's nice. The main things we're taking this for is the lightning res shred chance and the shock chance. Electrify chance is fine. And then I figured 5 points. Why not? You get some extra damage. You get some extra damage out of it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with this. 3 points into Divine Essence. You see these little, not these sigils, not these symbols, but these little comet looking things going around us. That is Divine Essence. All right. And per stack of Divine Essence, it lasts 10 seconds, and we're granted 15% increased armor and healing effectiveness. And we also reduce damage over time by 5%. You can have a maximum of 3 Divine Essences. And 5% reduced damage over time. 5 times 3, 15% reduced damage taken over time. I think that's a great pickup. 12 points into Reverence of Duality for increased mana, health, damage, healing effectiveness. 1 point into Covenant of Light, and then I split it. 5 points into Covenant of Protection, 5 points into Covenant of Dominion. This is not necessarily required. You can take these points and put them elsewhere. All right, guys. Sorry. All right, guys, that is the build. Thank you so much. And hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for all of the support. I think we're going to be doing a Warpath build next, so I got to go try and plan that one out. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you very much. You guys take care. Peace out.